The Honourable Member for Charlottetown Parkdale.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I have to assume that the exemption regulations referred to by my leader here were requested specifically by the major junior hockey teams in response to the $1 million class action lawsuits that are currently before the courts. A question to the Minister of Workforce and Advanced Learning. If the courts are in the process of determining whether or not these young athletes are employees, wouldn't it be more prudent to wait for the court's decision before you strip them of their rights?
The Honourable Minister of Workforce and Advanced Learning.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. To answer the question, you're talking about court proceedings. Well, we haven't had any court proceedings here in this province. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Minister. The Honourable Member, Charlottetown Parkdale, your first supplementary.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. According to the CBC, the Minister met with Randy Gumbly of the Canadian Hockey League Players Association on April 20th, 2017. At that time, Gumbly said that after his meeting with the Minister, he felt confident that the bill would not go any further. I guess on that score he was correct, but I doubt that you told him at that time that the intent was that the bill would go forward in regulation instead. Again, to the Minister, how is this consistent with open and transparent government?
The Honourable Minister of Workforce and Advanced Learning.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I did indeed have a meeting with the individual, and he misinterpreted any indication that I didn't indicate that we would do that at that point in time. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Minister. The Honourable Member for Charlottetown Parkdale, your second supplementary.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I appreciate that for many young athletes, the major junior hockey leagues are a necessary training ground for them to pursue their NHL hockey dreams. But without the players, there would be no league. The crowds come to see these incredibly talented young players, and it strikes me as bizarre that everyone involved in the business, from coaches, managers, to the concession stand vendors and the Zamboni drivers, are protected under employment standards, but not the people who actually play the game. Minister, will you commit to repealing these secretive exemption regulations that unfairly exploit these young athletes?
The Honourable Minister of Workforce and Advanced Learning.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'll certainly look into it and take it under advisement. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Minister.